White Way needs, right?
I think so, Sheila. You know, Tony Award the nominations are coming up eventually, and there's almost nothing but this show will be heard from. Now, in case you're too young to know, some of the greatest singing and dancing came out of the jazz era. Add the blues and tap dancing at its best, and you have Black and Blue, a sizzling evening of theater.
Black and Blue is a review, a series of wonderful performances of dance, jazz, and blues ranging from the works of Harold Arlen to Duke Ellington and Eubie Blake. The performances are all first-rate, even though a few seem to go on too long here and there, with too many false endings, thus with built-in encores. Nevertheless, this will have you tapping and stomping your way out of the theater.
Yes, Sheila, I will mention Ruth Brown because this show, meanwhile, was produced and directed by the same Brazilians who brought us Tango Argentina. Now, the night belongs to the aforementioned Ruth Brown, Linda Hopkins, and Carrie Smith, who will knock you out of your seats, and all the hoofers and the dancers, and there is a difference. So put on your dancing shoes and go, go, go. I'm Jeffrey Lyons. Brett?
It's Black and Blue.
Musical review, Black and Blue.
In the West, I get
catering a Brooklyn bar mitzvah. For the Latin directors have little feel for the material, and they take great music and great talent and hardly know what to do with them. Example, look how they handled a wonderful singer, Carrie Smith. Poor Carrie is forced to sing precariously from a swing high above the stage. Why? Simply to display a giant beaded skirt. Chic? No, just silly. By the same token, number after number is danced in shadows. Artistic? No, just hard to see. So the effects are empty and the show has absolutely no point of view. We merely get a parade of gilded, unrelated numbers that rarely touch the heart, and the best of them are the simplest. Linda Hopkins belting a torch song. Ruth Brown singing the saucy, "If I can't sell it, I'll keep sitting on it." The veteran hoofers Ralph Brown and Lon Chaney in a bit of stylish minimalism. The show has so many great resources: a foxy chorus, a sensational orchestra driven by drummer Grady Tate with knockout Ellington arrangements, and the wonderful and much abused Carrie Smith.
Oh, can you ask me, am I blue? Oh, wouldn't you be too if he's glad with your man down fell through?
But with Argentine directors Claudio Segovia and Hector Arazzoli slapping together the numbers without rhyme or reason and with an overabundance of window dressing, the show quickly becomes bland and repetitious. It's a terrible waste of talent. The Latin directors had a hit with Tango Argentino. With Black and Blue, they have an El Stifo. And John, you know me, a little Ellington and just
you
a
go
time
bananas,
step,
I know.
I'm in heaven.
Yeah, well, maybe somebody out there is listening. Maybe they'll turn on some lights and cut some...
So Black and Blue open tonight, turning music from the past for an extravaganza that could have a future. Our entertainment editor Dennis Cunningham is here now with a review. Dennis.
Mike, thank you. Now, there's a huge amount of talent let loose on the stage of the Minskoff Theater in the service of this show called Black and Blue.
The basic trouble is, however, there's really nothing to be in service of. Black and Blue is a failed show primarily because it's hardly a show at all. It's simply a very long string of musical numbers separated by a merciful intermission. It has no form, no shape, no structure, and worse yet, it has no point.
Now, the majority of the individual numbers, all by themselves, are at the very least good, some very good, one or two even inspired, such as the singular artistry of dancer Bunny Briggs. But the individual numbers are not all by themselves. There are nearly 30 of them, some of them bumping into each other, others ignoring each other, hardly a one having much to do with the other. Certainly, they aren't flowing one to the other, and just as certainly, they aren't building too much of anything, and despite the title, they don't even have all that much to do with the blues. As misdirected by two different directors, the show is formless and pointless, and no amount of talent, no matter how huge, could do much about that.
And that's a pity, but I rush to point out that among the very talented performers who are just let loose on the stage are some wonderful onstage musicians who form a terrific onstage orchestra. You may have heard a bit there. Plainly and simply, though, Black and Blue is not sharply conceived or smartly constructed. I mean, we've had so many other shows, good shows, hit shows that deserve to be hits, which took some of the same basic material as here and made something wonderful of it. Somehow Black and Blue makes nearly nothing of it. Somehow that's kind of reverse magic, whatever that is.
So it sounds to me like we got the elements here of a really great variety show.
You know what? It would be wonderful in a nightclub if it were about an hour long and you could smoke and drink and walk around.
Mm-hmm. What about the band?
Aren't they terrific?
Yeah.
You know, they're terrific, but as with almost everything in the show, it doesn't go anywhere.
It seems like with Legs, the other recent musical, it's very hard to combine plot with music, with dancing, and you get two, but you don't get all three.
It didn't used to be that difficult, it seems to me, but for the past couple of years, we've had some trouble.
Oklahoma, this is not, I guess.
This is not.
For sports. Formula, by the way, is 40 years old.
40 years old?
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott Clark. Black and blue may be the predominant color after a hockey game or a basketball game. It's also the title of a new Broadway musical review. Joel Siegel has seen it. He has his review.
Black and Blue was brought to Broadway from a big Paris run by the same producer, director, designer, choreographers who brought us Flamenco Puro and El Tango Argentino. But those shows introduced us to new art forms. This show does bruise their reputation. We've seen Sophisticated Ladies, Eubie, Ain't Misbehavin', great black musical reviews based on the works of great black composers. They had a reason for being. They said something. But Black and Blue is a nightclub act, large, elaborate, and inconsequential. A series of musical numbers that have no reason for being. They become repetitive. Except for the costume changes, it becomes difficult to tell one from another. Over-rehearsed, there is no spontaneity. Even the great musicians in the band seem stifled, and spontaneity is the essence of this art. The one exception is Ruth Brown. 30 years ago, they called her Miss Rhythm, the Queen of Rhythm and Blues. 20 years ago, she was working as a domestic on Long Island. But she put her two sons through college. A great singer, a powerful presence, making her Broadway debut at 61. She deserves to be here. I wish I could say the same for the rest of the show. What a voice. It's not the lack of talent on the stage, but the lack of understanding of the art form by the producer-directors. True, this has to be the best black musical review ever produced by two guys from Buenos Aires that ran a year in Paris. But I want to see the best black musical ever produced by two guys from 125th Street that ran a year at the Apollo, where this show wouldn't make it through the night. I'm Joel Siegel, Channel 7 Eyewitness News on Broadway.